The Resource Center for Human Rights and Civic Education has called on the federal government to tackle the rising spate of insecurity across the nation with the urgency it deserves. The director of the center, Dr. Ibrahim Zikirullahi, stated this at a press conference on the state of the nation held in Abuja. Zikirullahi, who also decried the many cases of sexual and gender-based violence in the nation, urged the police and judiciary to ensure victims of violence receive timely justice for abuse suffered. He questioned the character of some presidential aspirants and called on Nigerians to carefully scrutinize the track records and personality of the aspirants as he encouraged Nigerians to prepare to vote massively in 2023.
The current level of insecurity across the nation poses the gravest threat to our country and our democracy. The military and paramilitary institutions are deployed across Nigeria's 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory for the first time. In the Northeast, the deployment is tackling terrorism. In the Northwest, the deployment is to tackle banditry and new forms of terrorism. In the North Central, the deployment is tackling terrorism, banditry, and communal, religious, and ethnic unrest among settler and indigenous populations. In Nigeria's Southeast, the deployment is tackling secession, while deployments in the South and Southwest respond to militancy and attacks on oil installations and kidnapping and robbery, respectively. Lives have never been so cheap in Nigeria. Because the government is weak, criminal gangs are emboldened to take on the state and harm citizens. This inadequate response from the government appears to be what motivated the recent bold attacks by criminal elements on high-profile targets such as Kaduna International Airport and the train service. CHRICED strongly condemns the government's poor, weak, and indecisive action to the wave of insecurity engulfing Nigeria and wreaking havoc on residents' lives. Incredibly, the terrorists behind these attacks are publicly daring and taunting the authorities, just as they have continued to threaten to kill passengers abducted during the train attack. Many families are mourning the loss of their loved ones, just as the families of those kidnapped languish in suspense, unsure of their loved ones' fate held captive in the criminals' den. Additionally, there have been multiple reports of terrorists marrying off women they abducted if their relatives cannot pay the millions of naira requested as ransoms. This is the situation in Shiroro, Niger State, where gunmen reportedly threatened to marry off a 21-year-old lady taken from a community in the state unless her parents paid 1.7 million naira ransom. There are numerous other instances like the one above, indicating a complete breakdown of security across the country. These atrocities point to the government's failure to fulfill its primary responsibility of protecting lives and properties. This failure is exerting a high price on human lives. Nigerians are fed up seeing their countrymen and women murdered, kidnapped, and dehumanized daily. While our gallant soldiers have continued to do their best, it is clear that we must do a lot more, and urgently too, to stop the terrorists and bandits and kidnappers from gaining the upper hand. Unfortunately, President Buhari has continued to admit that the administration is overwhelmed. He must, however, prove this claim or resign honorably. As the father of the nation, President Buhari has a constitutional responsibility to protect every Nigerian and resident in this country. His appointees share in that responsibility and are accountable for every needless death. At CHRICED, we believe that Nigeria is blessed with enough experienced men and women that can provide expertise to overcome this existential threat to our nation. The president must show commitment by weeding out those appointees that have demonstrated a total lack of ideas and bring in intelligent, experienced hands that can help the administration overcome the multiple points of insecurity and drivers of insecurity in our nation. Rising sexual and gender-based violence. President Buhari and all the state governors and officials of local government administrations must cooperate and coordinate to tackle the rising incidence of sexual and gender-based violence in the country. Sadly, more than 12 months after the police announced that it received over 900 sexual and gender-based violence reports, very little has been heard about the number prosecuted and convicted. The recent murder of the gospel singer Osinachi Nwachukwu, purportedly by her husband, is another sad reminder of this shadow pandemic in our nation. Government silence is a significant enabler and makes all government officials culpable. President Buhari and all state governors must show more commitment to eradicating all forms of sexual and gender-based violence in our country by ensuring proper prosecution of offenders. The judiciary must show new gusto to punish offenders to establish a deterrent. The police authorities must train and put in place systems and structures to improve their role as the first respondent. CHRICED knows with dismay that the most visible manifestation of the failure of governance at all levels is the heightened insecurity that is currently ravaging Nigeria. As still stands, the government can no longer claim to have the competence or political will to ensure the protection of people and property throughout the country. For each life lost due to the malicious operations of bandits, terrorists, and kidnappers, the government must be held accountable for flagrantly failing to take the necessary steps to protect lives and property. On anti-corruption, dubious pardon and the triumph of corruption under Buhari. Just when the fight against corruption appears to be finally spreading among Nigeria and development partners, President Buhari announced a pitiable, politically informed state pardon for two recalcitrant former governors, Joshua Dare of Plateau State and Jolly Nyame of Taraba State. This ill-advised pardon is the biggest revelation of the deception fed by this administration to the Nigerian people in its anti-corruption promises. It is on record that the two former governors never cooperated with the government throughout the investigation and prosecution. On the contrary, they did everything possible to frustrate the investigation and prosecution. It is to the credit of the hard-working staff and leadership of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission that the country eventually secured a conviction for these two felons. It is therefore disappointing and condemnable that President Buhari decided to reward unrepentant offenders with a state pardon. This act is a total disrespect of the pardon power of the president. It undermines the anti-corruption investments and risk by all anti-corruption advocates and institutions. It is shameful that the Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Abubakar Malami, has once again allowed this shameful action to happen under his watch. It is even more shameful that President Buhari failed to show leadership and decorum and share the exalted office of the president from such ignominious action. This president's action demonstrated contempt for the international community and donors who have invested heavily in this government's anti-graft campaign, denigrates the support of civil society organizations. It is a waste of the millions of naira and hundreds of person hours invested by the EFCC's hardworking and dedicated investigators to prosecute the case. Furthermore, President Buhari's use of his prerogative of mercy in a destructive manner is the final nail in the coffin of the government's ostensibly anti-corruption battle. However, CHRICED commends anti-corruption institutions and oversight bodies that continue to live above partisan politics. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, recently released a report detailing its monitoring of zonal intervention projects, commonly known as constituency projects, for the fourth quarter of 2021. The findings reveal many types of corruption and how such behavior jeopardize ordinary persons' rights to high-quality essential social services. Several incidents of faulty execution of schools, rural roads, cottage hospitals, and empowerment initiatives were highlighted in the report. CHRICED applauds the ICPC for its commitment to ensuring that public funding for constituency projects are used wisely and honestly. CHRICED urged the ICPC to follow up on the report's clear incidents of corruption by either ensuring that the contractors return to the site or refunding what they have embezzled from project funds. In addition, the agency should vigorously pursue lawmakers who converted constituency projects into their personal property as a deterrent to others, while hoping that the president will not pardon those convicted. Countdown to the 2023 general elections. The need for issue-driven political contests. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, the race to the 2023 election is gaining speed. We commend the administration for working hard in collaboration with civil society and development partners to sign the 2022 Electoral Act and the several innovations capable of improving elections in Nigeria. INEC has also announced the elections timetable with clear deadline for various stakeholders group. We are, however, concerned by the character and integrity of the many candidates that have so far expressed interest in the presidency. Many of the candidates have serious corruption cases hanging on their necks. Some are alleged to have failed to provide leadership to curb the spread of COVID-19 in their states. Some are said to be battling health challenges. Nigeria is in a dire situation, making the 2023 elections a critical milestone in our democratic development. Political parties and their stalwarts owe this nation a great responsibility at this juncture in our political history to search and put forward credible, hardworking, intelligent, healthy, committed candidates capable of confronting the multiple existential threats facing our nation. Because the future appears bleak, it makes it imperative for politicians to desist from empty sloganeering and posturing. Nigeria must also carefully consider and examine the credentials, ideas, and proposals of those claiming to want to govern the country in 2023. While whoever is elected president in 2023 will provide overall direction for the polity and economy, there are many other political leaders, from councillors to local government chairpersons to state and federal legislators and governors, whose actions or inactions will make or mar citizens' lives. Citizens across the country must be interested in what each of these political representatives intends to do to bring the country back from the brink of disaster.